Welcome to this 365 Freedom Strategy session. Today we're breaking down the mechanics of consistent selling and why your biggest business bottleneck is your need to be original.
Yeah, and it really is a massive bottleneck. I mean, think about the last time you sat down at your computer.
Yeah.
You know you need to generate revenue, right? You need to put an offer out to your market.
But you open a blank document and that cursor just starts blinking at you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And suddenly, this task that honestly should take like 5 minutes, it feels like you're staring down a mountain.
Right. You spend an hour just trying to think of a completely new, clever, never-before-seen way to describe the exact same service you've been selling for years.
And it's exhausting. So today, as your internal strategic partners, we're really going to prove to you that your lack of consistent sales isn't a discipline problem at all.
No, not at all. And it certainly isn't a motivation problem, which is what everybody thinks it is.
Exactly. It's actually a massive misdiagnosed case of decision fatigue. It's just disguised as a lack of willpower.
Right, and that's such a critical distinction to make. I mean, it fundamentally shifts how we view our daily operational output.
For sure. Because if you're a founder or a creator and your sales are sporadic, you have these intense periods of high revenue, and then they're followed by these incredibly frustrating, terrifying droughts.
The feast or famine cycle.
Yeah, exactly. You're likely diagnosing the wrong problem entirely. You blame your work ethic, you question your drive.
You tell yourself you just don't have the hustle required, right?
Right.
Like you just aren't working hard enough.
Right, but the reality is you should be looking directly at your message's repeatability. I mean,
Yeah.
selling effectively and sustainably doesn't require this immense, unwavering amount of discipline.
No, it just requires structured clarity. So let's dismantle this pervasive myth right away. I mean, the common assumption across almost every industry is that if you aren't selling consistently, you're just lazy.
Or distracted, or you just, don't want it badly enough.
Right. But when we look closely at the operational reality of most founders, the actual root cause is this exhausting need to constantly invent new words.
It really is. It's this intense, entirely self-imposed pressure to sound original every single time you present an offer to the market.
Let's break down the psychological weight of this originality trap, because I really don't think most people realize how much energy it actually consumes on a daily basis.
The psychological weight is staggering. And the crazy part is, it's completely invisible to the person carrying it until they literally burn out.
Yeah.
So let's walk through the actual mechanics of what happens in the brain during that scenario we just described. You sit at your desk, right?
You know intellectually that your business needs cash flow.
Exactly. You decide it's time to write a sales email or maybe a social media post making an offer. The very first thing that happens when you open that blank document is a massive spike in cognitive load.
Because you're no longer just executing a routine business task.
Right. You are suddenly demanding that your brain perform this really high-level creative act totally on demand.
You're basically trying to be Shakespeare when you really just need to be a signpost.
That is the perfect way to say it. You're trying to adjust the framing of the offer. You search for fresh phrasing because, you used the word transformative last Tuesday.
And God forbid you use it again today.
Right. You're terrified that if you use it again, your audience will think you're repetitive or boring. So you second guess all the details.
You start worrying intensely about whether you're saying too much, overwhelming the buyer.
I'm saying too little and completely failing to convey the actual value.
Yeah. And you're doing all of this while just staring at a blank screen. It's wild. Every single time you decide to sell, you're forcing yourself to reinvent the wheel.
Which requires just an enormous amount of mental calories.
It totally does. I mean, imagine a head chef at a really successful, busy restaurant who refuses to write down a menu. Right. He insists on inventing completely new dishes from scratch for every single customer who walks through the door.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It would be. A customer sits down at table 4, and the chef thinks, well, I can't give them the steak frites I made for table 2. That wouldn't be original enough.
So he scrambles.
Exactly. He scrambles to invent a new flavor profile. He's sourcing new ingredients from the fridge, figuring out a totally new cooking time, and calculating a brand new price just on the fly.
I mean, that chef wouldn't just be inefficient. He'd burn out in a week.
And the restaurant would go bankrupt.
Yeah, and the quality of the food would be wildly inconsistent, too.
Spot on. If you run a restaurant, the efficiency, the quality control, and the profitability, they all come from the fact that the menu is fixed.
Right. The kitchen knows exactly how to prepare the signature dish.
They have the ingredients prepped in advance. They have the timing down to an absolute science. When an order comes in, there's zero creative friction.
It's just pure efficient execution.
But in the digital business space, we seem to have totally romanticized this idea of bespoke selling. We act as if writing a completely unique, heavily stylized promotional email every Tuesday is some sort of badge of honor.
We really do.
Why do we do this? Like, why do founders inherently equate originality with value in a sales context?
Well, I think we equate originality with value because we conflate the product with the promotion.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, this is where the ego gets really heavily involved in operations.
Yeah.
As a founder, your product, your coaching, your software, or your service, that is where your unique genius, your originality, and your bespoke care should be fully expressed.
Because that's what the client is paying for.
Exactly. That's where you deliver the immense, life-changing value to the client. But the promotion, the actual vehicle that communicates the existence of that value to the marketplace, that needs to be a utility.
It needs to be a bridge.
Yes, a bridge. And bridges don't need to be radically redesigned with completely new architecture every single time a car drives over them.
Right, they just need to be structurally sound.
Structurally sound, clearly marked, and incredibly reliable. That's it.
So the product is the art, but the promotion is literally just the delivery truck.
That is the perfect way to look at it. Founders get trapped because they want their peers or their audience to read their sales posts and think, wow, what a clever turn of phrase. What a brilliant copywriter.
But buyers aren't looking for cleverness.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Buyers are actively looking for clarity. They have a specific problem, they're in pain, and they just want to know if you have the specific solution.
And when you constantly reinvent the phrasing just to satisfy your own need for, creative expression, you actually force the buyer to work harder to understand what you do.
Exactly. You're not just burning yourself out, you're actively confusing your market.
And if originality in the promotion phase is burning us out and confusing our buyers, we really need to look at what happens when this goes completely unchecked.
We do. And there's a specific micro story we're analyzing today about a creator who completely fell victim to this.
Right, and her behavioral pattern perfectly illustrates this shift from friction to flow. Her sales fluctuated wildly, creating this classic boom and bust cycle.
Yeah, so some weeks she was making offers daily. She was highly visible, super energetic, active, and really driving revenue.
But then, almost like clockwork, other weeks she just avoided mentioning her offer entirely, like complete radio silence.
She'd post pictures of her coffee,
Yeah.
right? Or share these really vague inspirational quotes.
Yeah, but the actual mechanism for generating revenue completely vanished.
And initially, when she looked at her own behavior, she diagnosed the problem exactly the way the prevailing narrative tells us to. She blamed her discipline.
She thought she just didn't have the stamina to maintain the hustle.
Right, she told herself she was just being lazy during those quiet weeks.
But when she actually sat down and traced the friction back to its absolute source, she realized the bottleneck wasn't a lack of motivation.
It was a lack of clarity.
Yeah. She identified the exact point of failure. Every time she wanted to sell, she felt she had to invent new words. That was the barrier.
She was forcing herself to start from absolute zero every single time.
Let's dissect that boom and bust cycle for a second, because it's incredibly destructive, not just to a business's cash flow, but to a founder's actual psychology.
Psychology of the boom and bust is fascinating, honestly. During the boom week, she probably had a surge of external inspiration.
Right. Maybe she attended a great networking event, or she had a massive win with a current client.
Yeah, and she felt naturally energized.
Yeah.
So riding that emotional high, she powers through the friction of the blank page and manages to write like 5 different highly original sales posts.
But the energy expenditure required to do that is completely unsustainable.
Totally. It's the cognitive equivalent of sprinting a marathon. By the end of that week, her creative reserves are entirely depleted.
So when Monday rolls around again, her brain is just running on empty.
Exactly. When the next week begins, the mere thought of opening another blank document to invent yet another new way to describe her core offer, it's physically repulsive to her nervous system. Yeah. The human brain inherently avoids tasks that it categorizes as highly energy draining, right?
Yeah.
Especially when the outcome, like getting a sale, is uncertain.
Thus, the bust week happens.
Right. She retreats, she posts lifestyle content or maybe educational content that has absolutely no clear call to action simply because it feels easier.
It requires significantly less cognitive heavy lifting. She's literally just protecting her energy.
Precisely.
We really need to look at the hidden costs of this cycle. I mean, obviously, there's the immediate cost of lost revenue during those quiet weeks. If you aren't making offers, people aren't buying.
Right, that's the obvious hit.
But there's a deeper, more insidious cost here. It's the cognitive dread that builds up over months and years when selling becomes deeply associated with the heavy lifting of constant reinvention.
And that dread is the true business killer. I mean, when selling feels like a monumental, exhausting chore, you begin to subconsciously resent your own business.
You start looking for ways to avoid the very activity that keeps the business alive.
You do. Furthermore, consider the inconsistency from the audience's perspective. Think about the market's perception of this erratic behavior.
Oh, right.
In week 1, they are bombarded with offers, phrased in 5 completely different ways, with different angles and different promises.
And then in week 2, the founder just goes dark. The offer vanishes. What does that subconsciously signal to the buyer?
It signals instability. It looks desperate one week and totally apathetic the next.
Right. And trust is built on predictable behavior.
Precisely. If your presence in the market is chaotic, the buyer's trust in your ability to deliver a stable, reliable result is severely compromised.
Because if they can't trust you to show up consistently in your marketing, why on earth would they trust you to show up consistently in your service delivery?
Exactly.
Which raises a really important strategic question. I mean, we all do things in our business that are slightly annoying or take a bit of effort, right? Reconciling expenses is annoying.
Formatting a newsletter is annoying.
Right. So why does this specific task, inventing the words for a sales post, cause the entire sales system to collapse so spectacularly? Like, why is it so fatal to an operational rhythm?
Well, because inventing words isn't an administrative task. It is a high-level strategic decision masquerading as a daily chore.
Oh, that's huge.
This is where founders get completely tripped up. Every time you try to invent a new way to say, for example, I help consultants scale their agencies, you are reevaluating your entire brand positioning on the fly.
You're not just writing.
No? You sit there asking yourself, should I focus on the time-saving benefits today? Or the financial ROI? Or maybe the lifestyle freedom?
What's the current trend in the market? What did my biggest competitor post yesterday?
Exactly. Should I sound aggressive or nurturing? You are trying to solve a massive, complex strategic puzzle every single time you open Instagram or sit down to write an email.
You're essentially rebuilding the foundation of the house every time you want to open the front door.
That's exactly it. And it's fatal to a rhythm because a rhythm requires automation and repetition. Reinvention, by its very nature, requires intense, deliberate deliberation.
You cannot maintain a steady, fast-paced operational rhythm if you are stopping the production line every 5 minutes to redesign the product packaging.
The system simply breaks down.
The realization this creator had points us to a universal truth about human behavior and business systems. Friction destroys consistency.
It really does. If the system requires too much manual creative effort at the point of execution, it will eventually be abandoned.
We see this everywhere. Like, if you want to run every morning, but your running shoes are buried in the back of the closet and your clothes are in the laundry, you won't run.
The friction's too high.
Right. Consistency only becomes natural when the friction of decision-making is permanently removed.
And in the context of sales, removing that friction means selling no longer feels like starting from scratch.
Right.
It shifts into a state of repetition with intention.
We really need to talk about the technical mechanics of decision fatigue here, because it explains exactly why this shift is so crucial.
Yeah, let's get into the neuroscience of it.
Right, because we talk about cognitive load a lot in business, but how does decision fatigue actually paralyze a founder's ability to sell?
Well, decision fatigue is a very real, scientifically documented phenomenon. Your daily cognitive battery is strictly limited.
You only have so much juice.
Exactly. You wake up with a finite amount of executive decision-making power, and every single choice you make depletes that battery.
Deciding what to wear depletes it. Deciding how to respond to an upset client depletes it.
Prioritizing your to-do list depletes it. In business, if you spend 80% of your allocated daily energy just deciding what to say in a sales post, you have only 20% left for the actual execution.
Wow.
You have almost nothing left for the follow-up, the engagement with leads in the DMs, the sales calls, and the actual delivery of the service to paying clients.
Yeah. It's a terrible misallocation of your most valuable resource. You're burning all your fuel while the car is literally still in park.
Beautifully said. By pre-deciding the words, by locking in your core messaging, you completely eliminate the friction at the point of action.
You shift the burden.
Right. You do the hard, intense work of deciding the positioning once during a dedicated, high-level strategic session. You figure out exactly what the offer is.
Then, on a daily basis, the act of selling shifts from a taxing creative burden to a simple, low-energy operational task.
Exactly.
I want to highlight the feeling of lightness that the creator described once she figured this out. She noted that once she had her core sentences saved and locked in, selling literally felt lighter.
That's a great way to describe it.
Think about what that actually means for your daily operations. When the words are already decided and saved in a document on your desktop, the workflow changes completely.
You open your social media platform or your email software.
You copy the text, you paste the text, you hit publish.
A process that used to take an hour of agonizing drafting, editing, and second-guessing now takes literally 3 minutes.
And because it takes 3 minutes and costs almost zero cognitive energy, you are infinitely more likely to actually do it.
You don't need to summon a massive wave of motivation or listen to a hype playlist just to copy and paste.
Right. You just execute the system. The lightness comes from the absence of doubt. When you write from scratch every day, you are constantly battling internal doubt.
Is this good enough?
Yes.
Will this convert? Does this sound stupid?
Exactly. When you use pre-decided, proven language that you've already strategically vetted, the doubt is removed. You trust the asset.
You do.
I want to address the listener directly right now. I want you to evaluate your last 3 sales attempts. Think back to the last 3 times you explicitly asked your audience to buy something from you.
Be honest with yourself here.
Yeah. Were you genuinely energized by the value of the offer itself, or were you entirely exhausted by the process of writing the post or drafting the email? Did you feel drained before you even hit send?
If so, you are suffering from decision fatigue caused by a lack of predefined messaging.
You're trying to be a brilliantly original copywriter every single day instead of being a smart business owner who executes a proven system.
That's the ultimate diagnostic test right there. If the act of communicating the offer is more tiring than the thought of actually fulfilling the service for the client, your marketing mechanics are broken.
The friction is in the entirely wrong place.
Absolutely.
So how do we practically remove this friction? Like, how do we stop the endless cycle of reinvention today?
Well, we need a highly constrained, proven framework to replace the blank page.
The ultimate solution to the originality trap, and really the absolute antidote to decision fatigue in your marketing, is defining your offer in 3 simple static sentences.
Just 3.
Sentence 1, what it is. Sentence 2, who it is for. Sentence 3, the core result it delivers.
Let's spend some serious time analyzing why these 3 specific pillars are the absolute non-negotiables of conversion.
Yeah, why these 3 and why only these 3?
Because these 3 elements answer the core subconscious questions every single buyer asks when they encounter a new piece of information in the marketplace.
If you don't answer these 3 questions immediately, the buyer's brain just checks out.
Exactly. So let's take them one by one.
Yeah.
First, what it is. This is all about removing ambiguity.
Which is huge because we live in a marketplace that is completely saturated with clever, vague, pseudo-intellectual branding.
Oh, it's everywhere. People sell quantum leaps and paradigm shifts and synergistic ecosystem optimization.
Right, and none of that means anything to the human brain?
It's just jargon masking insecurity. The buyer needs to know the format of the delivery. Is it a 6-week asynchronous video course?
Is it a one-on-one consulting retainer over Zoom?
Is it a downloadable PDF template? Or a physical piece of software? If you do not clearly state what it is, the buyer's brain gets stuck trying to categorize the offer.
They are trying to figure out the logistics of how this actually fits into their life.
And a confused mind never buys. It simply scrolls to the next post.
It's so common. We try to dress up the mechanism because we think the mechanism itself is boring.
Right. We don't want to say it's a weekly email newsletter because that sounds mundane to us.
So we say it's a weekly inbox revolution designed to elevate your consciousness.
And the buyer just closes the app because they don't have the time or the energy to decipher the riddle. They just want to know what they're clicking on.
Exactly. You have to respect the buyer's cognitive load, too.
Precisely. Now, the second sentence is who it is for. This acts as an immediate, ruthless filter for your audience.
A very common mistake founders make is trying to soften their language to make their offer appeal to everyone.
Hoping to maximize their total addressable market, right? But in copywriting, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one.
Stating exactly who the offer is for does two highly strategic things. Let's run a scenario here to illustrate that.
Sure.
Let's say I'm a fitness coach. If my sentence is, "This is for anyone who wants to get in shape," that's completely ignorable. It's white noise. But what if my sentence is, "This is a program specifically for postpartum nurses working 12-hour night shifts"?
The difference in impact is literally night and day. By stating that specific demographic, first, it repels the wrong people.
The 22-year-old bodybuilder isn't going to buy it.
Which is great, because he would be a terrible client for that program anyway. It saves you the headache of managing bad fit clients.
Second, and much more importantly, it acts as a massive psychological magnet for the right people.
Exactly. When a postpartum nurse working night shifts reads that sentence, she immediately feels seen, understood, and validated. She leans in. The relevance is instantaneous.
It creates instant attention. Like, if I'm that specific target, my attention is suddenly entirely captured by your message because you practically called me out by name in a crowded room.
Exactly. You've signaled that you completely understand their specific context.
It's finally the third sentence. The core result it delivers. This speaks directly to the buyer's desired transformation.
Because people don't buy products. They buy better versions of themselves.
Right. They buy the alleviation of a specific pain or the achievement of a specific desire. You must articulate the destination.
I think we need a really concrete way to visualize this third sentence.
It's like a doctor prescribing medication, right? When a patient is sitting in a clinic with a crippling migraine, they don't want the doctor to explain the complex molecular structure of ibuprofen.
No, they don't care about the manufacturing process of the pill at all.
They just want the doctor to look them in the eye and say, "Take this, and your migraine will be gone in 20 minutes.
The pill is the what, but the absence of pain is the result they are actually paying for.
That's a brilliant analogy. The mechanism, the chemical compound, only matters in service of the result.
What is the tangible, measurable, or deeply felt result that occurs after they consume the what's and fit the criteria of the who?
If you can't articulate that in one sentence, your offer just isn't fully baked yet.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to pause right here and push back on this because I know what our listeners are thinking right now.
Let's hear it.
We're talking to business owners who have spent years, sometimes decades, developing incredibly complex, nuanced methodologies.
Oh, absolutely.
They have layered services, intricate delivery models, and a wealth of deep industry experience. Isn't stripping a complex business down to 3 simple sentences going to feel reductive?
I hear this all the time.
Like, how do we ensure it doesn't sound overly simplistic to a highly sophisticated buyer? For example, if I'm selling a $50,000 B2B consulting package, can I really rely on just 3 sentences? Doesn't a high-ticket price demand a complex explanation?
It's the most common resistance to this framework, and it stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of how communication works at the highest levels of business.
Okay, unpack that.
Simplicity is not a lack of sophistication. It is the ultimate proof of it.
Oh, that's good.
Anyone can write a 10-page manifesto detailing every minor feature, every module, and every nuance of their service. That's easy. It requires zero restraint.
It's just a massive data dump.
Exactly. It requires immense mastery, deep understanding of your own value proposition, and supreme confidence to distill all of that complexity into 3 crystal clear sentences.
It reminds me of that famous quote, "I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time."
Yes, it takes real work to be concise. Pascal's principle applies directly to your business strategy here.
Right.
When a highly sophisticated corporate buyer sees a perfectly articulated, highly constrained 3-sentence offer, they don't think, oh, this is too simple, they must be amateurs.
They think, this person knows exactly what they're doing.
Exactly. They think they understand my problem well enough to state it plainly. Complexity in marketing usually signals insecurity.
The seller is throwing every possible benefit and feature against the wall, hoping something, anything, sticks.
Clarity, on the other hand, signals unshakable authority. Once these 3 sentences are accurate, they become the bedrock of your entire business architecture.
So the practical application is that you figure these out and then you treat them like gospel.
You save them somewhere visible.
You put them in a digital sticky note on your desktop. You pin them to the top of your Notes app on your phone.
And you use them everywhere. In social media posts, in email broadcasts, in the opening 2 minutes of a sales call, on your website landing page.
You use them without altering them.
You don't change a single word just because it's Tuesday and you're feeling a bit bored.
Yeah.
You let the structured clarity do the heavy lifting of conversion.
But there's a massive psychological barrier here that we have to address. Founders are absolutely terrified of annoying their audience.
Terrified.
They think if I post these exact same 3 sentences on Monday, and then again on Wednesday, and then again on Friday, people are going to unfollow me.
They'll think I'm a spammer or that I've turned into a robot.
Right. We need to talk about the technical difference between being repetitive and building trust, because we really need to dismantle that fear completely.
This fear is based on a massive cognitive distortion regarding how audiences actually consume content on the internet today. Repeating a clear message does not dilute it. It strengthens it. You are not being repetitive in a negative, nagging sense. You are building trust through predictability.
Consistency in selling is not applying pressure to the buyer. It's your clear message repeated on purpose until it finally registers.
Let's explore the reality of attention spans, because founders routinely sabotage their own conversion rates based on a totally false assumption.
They assume that their audience is paying 100% attention to every single post, every single email, and every single video they put out.
They think the audience is hanging on their every word.
It's an incredibly egocentric view of the market, really.
It is. We sit at our desks thinking about our own business 24 hours a day, so we project that obsession onto our audience.
We assume they're also deeply invested in our every word.
But they aren't. They are busy, they are distracted, they are stressed, and they are overwhelmed with an absolute avalanche of information.
The algorithm only shows your post to a tiny fraction of your followers to begin with.
Exactly. And of that fraction, only a percentage actually stops scrolling to read it.
Of those who read it, only a percentage comprehend it in that specific moment.
Right. The audience needs to hear the exact same truth more than once for it to even register as a coherent thought, let alone prompt them to pull out a credit card and make a purchasing decision.
It's the mere exposure effect in psychology. People tend to develop a preference for things merely because they are familiar with them.
It breeds comfort.
Yeah, if you change your phrasing every single time you talk about your business, you never allow that familiarity to build.
You're constantly introducing a new concept.
You reset the exposure clock back to 0 with every new post.
And let's talk about the concept of pressure in sales, because that's what founders are really afraid of.
They are afraid of being perceived as pushy, sleazy salespeople.
But pressure doesn't come from repetition. Pressure usually comes from desperate, convoluted, ever-changing pitches.
Oh, absolutely. It comes from the frantic energy of someone who is changing their angle every single day because they are desperate for a sale.
Buy it for the health benefits. Wait, no, buy it for the financial ROI. Actually, buy it because it's fast. Buy it because my dog needs surgery.
That frantic shifting creates immense pressure and deep distrust in the buyer. They sense the instability.
Conversely, a clear, repeated message conveys stability. It conveys profound confidence.
Yes. If a founder trusts their own language enough to reuse it relentlessly without feeling the insecure need to constantly dress it up in new adjectives, the market will subconsciously trust the offer.
The buyer looks at that consistency and thinks, this person is standing firmly behind this specific promise. They aren't wavering. They aren't pivoting every week.
This must be a solid, proven offering.
Exactly.
Okay, practically speaking, let's say I'm implementing this today.
Yeah.
I sit down, I do the hard work, and I write my 3 sentences.
Okay.
I'm committed, but I'm writing an email to my list, and I'm pasting those sentences in. How do I stop myself from jumping in at the last minute and tweaking just one little word to, freshen it up?
The urge to tweak.
Because knowing myself, the urge to edit is going to be incredibly strong. I'm going to look at it and think, maybe accelerate is better than grow.
It requires the discipline of restraint. You have to recognize in that exact moment that the urge to tweak is not driven by strategic necessity.
What's it driven by?
It is driven entirely by your own boredom and your own ego.
Wow. Okay.
And your boredom is a terrible metric for market saturation. Just because you are tired of typing the sentences does not mean the market is tired of hearing them.
That makes a lot of sense.
In fact, right around the time you are utterly sick of your own messaging and want to burn it down, the market is usually just beginning to understand it.
That's a painful truth.
You enforce restraint by treating those 3 sentences as fixed operational assets, exactly like the logo of your company or the URL of your website.
You wouldn't arbitrarily change your domain name every Thursday just to freshen things up.
Exactly. You wouldn't change your company colors because you felt bored on a Tuesday. Treat your core messaging with the exact same structural respect.
Let the proven words do the work.
Stop trying to outsmart your own successful system.
That is a direct challenge to the listener's current strategy. If your sales are inconsistent right now, your immediate instinct is probably to try and increase the volume.
You think you need to post twice a day instead of once?
You think you need to start a TikTok channel. You think you need to send 4 emails a week instead of 2. We are telling you to stop.
Stop trying to increase the frequency of your sales pitches until you have simplified and completely locked in your core message.
Multiplying a confusing, friction-heavy process will only accelerate your burnout and alienate your audience faster.
You must establish the clarity of the 3 sentences first. Only then does increasing the frequency become a profitable, sustainable exercise.
That's exactly right. The structural foundation must precede the amplification. If you amplify confusion, you just get louder confusion.
But if you amplify clarity, you get consistent sales.
As we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a final reflection to mull over as you look at your current marketing operations this week.
Consider how much revenue is currently trapped behind your ego's desire to sound clever, rather than your business's need to be clear.
Every single time you prioritize artistic reinvention over structural repetition, you are building an unnecessary barrier between your solution and the client who desperately needs it. Give yourself the gift of simplicity.
Honestly, it's the most profitable gift you can give your business.
If you're ready to build a sustainable sales rhythm that feels natural instead of forced, visit 365 Freedom online to join the community. This has been a 365 Freedom Strategy session.